Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access, it's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
And welcome, I'm Bob Hickey, your host. Thanking you for taking a little bit of time to join us here in Foxborough Central as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Can't be the gem of Norfolk County unless you've got good representation standing for you and putting their causes up in the forefront at the State House. And of course, that means we're joined by no one other than our State Representative, Jay Barrows. Jay,
hey, how
are you doing?
Good to see you.
Republican from Mansfield, covering our district, which is Mansfield, Foxborough, and portions of Norton.
Yep, and portions of Mansfield, actually. So I have all of Foxborough and half of Mansfield and half of Norton.
Okay, then.
Yep.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you join us, and we love having the Beacon Hill updates because it's really our direct conduit to what's going on in Boston, and that affects all of us. So,
Sure.
Let's start off with, this is your 92nd year doing this?
No, not that, although my hair's been a little blonder maybe. This is my 9th year, and it's really, truly, this year, I'm really excited. It's a new beginning. We elected Charlie Baker and Karen Polito as governor, lieutenant governor.
Republicans, and
yeah,
they were elected.
Republicans,
Yeah.
and very close election, but all that I can tell, Governor Baker, from what I've heard and read, is the most popular politician in the United States.
Really?
Yeah, he's well into the 70% approval rating.
Which is incredible considering we are quite the blue state here.
Absolutely. He dealt with over 9 feet of snow in 30 days, right out of the box. He dealt with the Olympics, and he's dealt with many other things, the MBTA being most pressing.
Well, that was, obviously with this past winter, that was the poster child for what is wrong with our infrastructure these days. And, of course, there's always arguments made one way or the other that an issue isn't made overnight. It takes time to dig the hole, and then it takes time to dig your way out of the hole.
Right.
But I think part of what everybody, and I'm also fascinated by him, and I love the way he handled the Olympics dilemma, and he, along with Mayor Marty Walsh, really didn't want to play ball. And
well, both of them showed some real political courage.
And temerity, I was going to say.
Yeah, they just stood by their ground. I think with the House Speaker, Bob DeLeo, and the Senate President, Stan Rosenberg, the three of them, along with Baker, and Walsh certainly handling the city piece, but stood together and said, let's really understand the numbers. Let's try to get some facts from this. And they had engaged a company into doing an independent study. Mm-hmm. And the study was to be released in the middle of August. And so that's what they said they were going to do. And the Olympic Committee put pressure on him to make a decision prior to that. And again, he's a man that stands by his convictions. And all three of them, as well as Mayor Walsh, stood back and said, we can't do it. We can't put the taxpayers at risk.
Well, it certainly sounds like a reasonable business decision, because if your analysis isn't going to be ready until the middle of August, and the entity, if you will,
right,
that is wanting the answer to their benefit starts to push to the point where it doesn't make sense, right, there's got to be a little bit more to it. Yeah, there's got to be something there. So anyway, good for them. You don't always see that.
Right,
so,
right. So we were proud of that. And again, his leadership, I've had the great fortune of meeting with him one-on-one, and also we caucus on a monthly basis with Republicans to bring our issues to the forefront, so he's aware.
How many Republicans are in the House?
35 now.
All right.
35. I was the low water mark, I guess, is 15. So we're moving on up. And again, I think the debate brings a better product. We were able to correct a $750 million deficit coming out of last year's budget, which was rectified and righted, and then a $1.8 billion structural deficit going forward.
Now, wait a second. The $750 million deficit for the prior year,
correct,
gets corrected how?
A number of cuts, number of adjustments, number of relook at the program and try to understand what is it trying to accomplish. Does it fit the goals and the agenda of the administration? Really asking people throughout state government to tighten their belt. Mm-hmm. We've got to take it seriously. It's your money. And then to write the $1.8 billion structural, as you might recall, we had a complete disaster when we converted from our Connector Care, or Romney Care, if you will, to Obamacare.
Yes.
And it was an abomination. It was horrible. That's a good term. I should use that.
I don't know if you used that on purpose or not, but that's pretty good. We can pat it here in Foxborough Central.
Okay, but you know, to fix some of those things and really to put, again, some logic back into what state government is supposed to do. So we did that without raising taxes. And the prior 8 years, we raised them over 6 times. And so I was really proud of both the governor, lieutenant governor, and his administration to be able to come up with that relatively quickly, considering, again, what they were faced with in the first quarter of the year. They had to get a budget out. They had to manage all the snow. They worked with the cities and towns to help with that, and again, try to fix the MBTA. The MBTA is a long-term fix.
Long-term fix, but
absolutely necessary. In Mansfield, and you know, you're a rider, we need that train to work, to be on time every day, to have people collect the ticket fares that are needed, and not slough that off, and get an operator in there that knows what they're doing.
You know, and the interesting piece of that is I was not a commuter this past winter, and I was so thankful that I was not. But many of my workers and my team were, and it did create a lot of issues. And there were a significant number of man hours that were lost due to just nonsense.
Right.
And
we had an absenteeism rate. We had people calling in, people the work rules that some of them are, you know, faced with within their job class, what they have to go through. You know, most of them are really good people, let's face it. But boy, I'll tell you, when the system works against you, and in our district, we have probably close to 2,300 to 2,500 people. They're just coming out of Mansfield every day. They come in from Foxborough. You know, we've got the County Street lot that begins to fill every day more and more and more. And we did it during the Great Recession. Everybody thought that was a boondoggle when we converted that land in Hathaway-Patterson to a parking lot, and worked with GATRA, our transportation folks on the ground, and they were able to move people back and forth. And that lot's filling up, and I'm really proud to see that happen. And it's also filling up in Mansfield again, and we've got to address some of those issues.
Well, you know what, it's interesting you say it, because and I was on the board when that decision was made, and it was really the absolute best solution to a very bad environmental situation, just to simply cap it, pave it, and use it. And I think the boondoggle came in when it was attempted to be monetized in a down economy, and really that was a tough sell. But as far as it goes, it's a great resource and fantastic solution to a otherwise problem that was going to be super expensive to resolve, and one that wouldn't have been resolved anytime soon. So when we get to that, we talk about long-term solutions. Staying the course is so tough to do in a political landscape that changes every election cycle. You've now been with us for 9 years, which is phenomenal longevity, you know, particularly for a Republican in a blue state. But what are some of the things going on Beacon Hill that you've been working on long term that maybe you could give us an update on? Sure.
Well, one of the things that was important to me when I started, and it continues to be, is the water sewer collaboration between the 3 communities. And now we've got it in place. We've got the legislation passed. We've had all 3 communities adopt it, and we're on the way to adding that 1 million gallons of flow a day.
That's fantastic, because that was such a it was such a common sense issue, but at the same time, it's such a huge legislative issue. And you stayed with that for years and years.
Yeah, we hung in there, as well as many, many others. And I have to give credit. You know, we had a lot of different dance partners, as they say, along the way, with changes in administrations, you know, town managers and so on and so forth. But everybody came together and recognized that it's something that we needed to work together.
And the different municipalities also recognized that there needed to be a solution, because what was there was not affordable by anybody.
Exactly. So that's been on the forefront. The other thing that I've been kind of dragged into, if you will, because of my background, the insurance business, I've been on a number of commissions studying the liability that the state has around retirement benefits for our state workers, state and municipal, the whole deal. At last count, it was at $38 billion and growing in terms of what we have to do in order to control. Are you
talking about on the state level, or are you talking about the local level?
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Because a lot of the rules are all the same. And trying to work with, at the state level, to create and craft some way out, if you will. And so we've been on that. I'm also recently appointed to a commission to study the managed care organizations as it relates to Medicaid. So our poorest of the poor that are on assistance through the Commonwealth, which is a lot of people. I mean, I never realized that nearly 25% of our population is on some form of health care.
Interesting, isn't it?
It's a big number. And
as we, depending upon when you're watching this, right before this taping, the Boston Globe came out with an article talking about how one of the major providers is looking to back out of the system because it's become so untenable as far as being able to afford the services that are being charged. And so the attempt to control costs has had the opposite effect with the way it's currently structured.
Right,
so
right.
What a huge challenge.
Yeah, it's huge. There's 12 of us from around the state with different disciplines, and we've been meeting regularly. And just again, first, just trying to mine the data is just mind-boggling. And to, I come at it again from a private sector, sort of viewpoint, and to try to understand what we have to do. And the physicians and hospital providers and other services that are given, are making deals with the state on prices, and then as a result of those, they have to go back to you and I in the private sector, where we're paying an employee contribution of X number of dollars a month to cover ourselves and our kids and families, whatever, and we're getting cost shifted, and the cost shift is very, very significant. And then we've got the federal government that is trying to stuff us all into this one box, where health care, to me, is very local. Mm-hmm. It is a local decision that you make, and here in Foxborough, you can go to Caritas, now Stewart, or you can go to Sturdy or Milford. I mean, we're in a great, strong community presence area, but at the same time, if you've got a real issue, into Boston, park in our Foxborough parking lot, get on the train, and you're there, in 35 minutes.
One would argue that in America, that should be a choice, yes.
Exactly. So it's a challenge to try to balance the quality of care and then balance the unknown, in that if you take one of the things that we're learning, hepatitis C is now curable. And there's a drug called Sovaldi. It's $80,000, and in 90 days, most people are cured. It's amazing.
For $80,000?
80 grand.
Okay.
So the state had organized rates, not knowing about Sovaldi. It showed up in the second quarter of the year, and it was starting to be prescribed because it met all the FDA requirements. Sure. $100 million.
That'll blow your budget.
Yeah, and that's what it did. And so a lot of our managed care organizations really took it on the chin, and the state, again, comes to the rescue, if they will. But again, as I mentioned before, we had a $750 million deficit. We had a $1.8 billion structural deficit going into the new year. We didn't have a revenue problem. We had a spending problem.
Right.
So it's time to tighten it up. If you're eligible, great. If you're not, but things even as little as asset testing before somebody can walk down and sign up. I mean, we don't do that. And we've got to stop some of that, or we're not going to survive, I don't think.
And it's a truth that great ideas are one thing, but to actually fund those great ideas, that's a whole nother.
Right.
I go back to a time when, back when I was selectman, there was a intermunicipal purchasing group, and the steel contract, it was signed for a 3-year contract or a 2-year contract. And then halfway through the contract, the price of steel skyrocketed. China was on a building surge.
Right.
And the contractor simply said, well, we can't do it, and they gave back the contract.
Right.
But the state doesn't have that option.
Right.
And
right.
particularly and I'm going to call it a socialized medical approach, but the
right.
people can call it
right.
whatever they want, but that's what I call it. And when you have that as your base, there is no option as far as not doing it. You can't say you're going to do it and then back out and say we were just kidding, because once you take that responsibility on, and that's where we as taxpayers have all sorts of great ideas, but then you got to take that step back and say, yeah, but how are we going to pay for it? And that's an interesting.
Well, it was interesting in that we put 455,000 people on Mass Health because we couldn't enroll them under the contract of Obamacare, if you will.
Probably would have had 900,000 if they could have gotten through on the phones.
Well, right. Right, exactly. But now what we've done is we've applied some of the rules, and to say, okay, let's measure eligibility. Because if you're not eligible, it's like you and I, we're paying, right? So if you're not eligible, you're not going to receive that full subsidy.
Which makes sense,
yeah,
but
it's fair, and those that do need it, and believe me, there are many folks out there that we're not going to leave behind.
Right.
But we need to manage it, so that's what we're trying to do.
Interesting. So, and of course, I'm speaking with Jay Barrows, who's our representative here. And what is the name of our district?
The First Bristol.
here in the First Bristol District. And I first came to know you back when you were the insurance man, and I walked in your office for insurance.
Sure.
But also with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
Are you still working with the...
Yeah, still on the board of directors of the Chamber. We're doing fantastic. We just had a membership drive, and we gained 15 new members, and we've made some progress here in Foxborough as well.
Fantastic.
We brought together the Chamber and created a kind of a regional economic development committee, which I'm playing an active role in, so that we can talk about and learn who might be looking, where we have opportunity, where there's some synergy, and we're working with the 3 town managers to chat about that sort of stuff, to try to get all on the same page, so that when we present to the state for a number of grants that they might have for, again, centered around economic development, we can qualify.
And the nice thing about Foxborough in particular, but with the new intermunicipal water agreement that will eventually bring sewering to parts of town, in particular downtown area, creating capacity, there will be some more opportunity that to this point has not been available just because of capacity.
Yeah, we're going to see, I think in 5 years, we're going to see a lot more development in our area, both from a housing perspective as well as a commercial. In Mansfield, they're working on transit-oriented development around the train station. We just had a project that was approved that'll bring, I think, another 80 or so condo units, apartment units.
Congratulations. I know that's been a long time in the works.
Yeah, long time in the making. So that's going to go along the North Main Street corridor. We're going to do some things with traffic routing and Mansfield
It's not all
Ave.
coming down County Street, is it?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not
I
yet.
still got my eye on that.
We just have to, though, again, I think from a more global perspective, we all have to share in this.
Absolutely.
In that, again, the train is so important to the community. And
to the region, in fact.
Exactly.
Because that train line is so heavily used, it's at capacity. And, when it goes down, people know it. But with it being there, it just opens up so many opportunities for young couples, for commuters, for people who depend upon that for their transportation in the city.
Sure. And again, we need that youngness and vibrancy. You and I are starting to get old. I know I am. You still look great.
I don't know what you're talking about.
To bring in new and young families to fill our schools. When I look at the enrollments of all the schools in my district, they're all in the decline. So we are seeing a change in the birth rate, and it's starting to catch up. So we do have seats to fill, and we've got the infrastructure, and we've got the quality people that are in our school departments that do a great job, but we've got seats to fill. So we need to look at that kind of broadening approaches.
Sure.
Again, housing is economic development. Done in the right way.
Done in the right way,
Done in the
absolutely.
way that the town really wants to lay out a plan. And I'm excited that Foxborough is going to be completing their master plan. That'll really give us some sense of direction of where we need to go. And again, it was done in a community fashion, bringing people together. It's a shame that with the passing of Sharon, the town planner, she's a great lady, brilliant lady. But we need to, we need to work together as a community to decide and come around what we want to see. But the worlds are changing, and young people today are not necessarily into the big house. They want something small
They
and
have
easy.
so many options now, and with urban planning, and in Boston they have that wonderful new D Street development where the whole district down there is just so vibrant and young and exciting and happening that that's a great lesson to be learned, that it can be done. It can be done right.
Right. Well, I'm excited with Schneider Electric and the work they're doing and the investment they've made. Again, the Foxborough company,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
bringing back the logo, and I think it's just fantastic. And again, getting the young engineers, and we've got a very diverse population, so it's been good things. A couple other things, just from a Beacon Hill perspective, that I've been trying to push: civics education. I've continued to offer that bill.
That was a long time thing of yours also, and you were telling me that civics is not a requirement in the schools.
Right, not a requirement to graduate. And my thoughts around that are simply, and others, Ginny Capola had filed it originally, I think, or maybe Mike did, but we've been trying. We're doing everything we can to register these young people to vote, which is a good thing, right? But if they don't have any sense of how government works, the fact that they need to volunteer and give back and participate, and not just during a presidential election.
Right.
When you see the votes, and the turnout on these local elections, they're horrible.
We're pretty good here in Foxborough.
Well, you're good. You guys usually have a little something going on.
That's because I do the post-election. I'm kidding.
But in Mansfield and Norton, this last election, there was no contested races. And again, we need to engage people, and we need to fill those slots that exist in municipal government as volunteers. So hopefully that civics thing, and we're making inroads again with the administration and with the chairs of education to take another look at it. They're working on funding principles around the foundation budget and how to deal with health costs that continually go up, and technology. I mean, school today isn't, what you learn in high school as a freshman isn't even accurate, I guess, when you're a senior.
That is so true. And so many kids are coming out now who are, there's an article that I was reading about how even the remedial college courses aren't preparing the kids to get the full benefit of the college education because they're coming out of high school so ill prepared.
Right.
That the colleges are even have a tough time getting them to the point where they can enter college.
Well, we've been working too on STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math programs. And again, with our 3 school districts, I think it was, 2 years ago, June before last, we brought in the 3 towns, Foxborough, Norton, and Mansfield, into Wheaton College and had a STEM day.
Okay.
And we had 6th and 7th graders. We had over 800 kids. It was a great program, and as an outgrowth of that, we're starting to spread some of those things that we've learned. And again, we're going to try to do it again. We just couldn't do it every year, but to give those youngsters an opportunity to see some of these great science experiments and the technology that's being done, and engineering and the math stuff. And the kids were blown away by it. And Wheaton College is a gem down in Norton.
It is.
Been there a long, long time. They just invested about $50 million in a life science center.
Really?
So they were thrilled to have us come in. And we had some folks from Raytheon come in. We really did a nice job. And a lot of area businesses, Snyder's one, and others, and I'm not going to try to list them all because I'll forget somebody, but it was great. It was a great effort by the community, businesses, and kids and teachers, and really, and again, getting everybody to work together. And I look at that, some of the things that I've learned, from the sewer and water, is you can do things together. You can put the parochialism down a little bit and say, okay, what do we have to do? Because we are a region. What's good for Norton is good for Foxborough. What's good for Mansfield is good for Norton. And it all works together.
I think also part of it is a track record. And as you've spent more time doing this and you've stood by your word, you've made some successes occur, people start to get comfortable and trust and see, you know what, we can. So, great credit to you for all the work you've put into it.
Thank you.
And we are so close to running out of time. We're here with Jay Barrows, who is our state representative with the 1st Bristol. And the way to get in touch with Jay, if you have any questions or would like to just reach out and tell him what a great job he's doing, you can email him at f.jbarrows@mahouse.gov. Of course, you can go to mass.gov. You can check out all their websites and all their email addresses and get in touch with them. One way to get in touch with you also is to talk to your staff. And I know that you always like to give a little credit, but I understand that you've got a new intern.
I do. Jack Walton here from Foxborough.
Our very own.
Yeah, your very own.
Shout out to Jack.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very happy to have him on board. Just graduated in 2014 from John Carroll University out in Cleveland.
Okay.
And he interned for me back when Mary Rodman was my legislative aide. So she broke him in, and he was excited. And when I met him, I could see the promise that he had and his intellect and he's a neat, young, articulate young man, and so proud to have him. And so that's the voice that will pick up the phone. And he's promised to get back to everybody as quickly as he can with answers if we can get them real quick, and answers if we don't, that we will get back to people. But we really pride ourselves on trying to return calls and help folks that need the help.
And his father, of course, here is Brian Walton.
Yeah. Former advisory committee member, I think, and nice family. So I'm pleased to have him.
All right. So with this being a non-election year, which is great, actually lets you do work instead of hit the trail. What are some of the things you're working on?
Well, we have had a lot of constituent services that have come forth, and unfortunately, the opioid crisis is really starting to hit.
We've featured that several times. District Attorney Morrissey on our program, and it's a very serious issue.
It really is, and working with the district attorneys both, and I think I'm fortunate because I've got both the Bristol County and Norfolk County DAs, and working together with the police, fire, first responders, and we've helped organize some Narcan training. And draw some more attention to things.
Okay.
I know the governor's got a very, very aggressive plan. We've been able to create some additional bed opportunities for people for the rehab piece, because we've got to change what we're doing.
Yes.
We have to change, and it requires bringing the hospitals together, bringing everybody together and saying, okay, what can we do? Again, it's a societal issue. What can society do to lift these folks up and try to help them get better? But I've received more and more calls than I have had any time in my past in recent months, and
Really?
it is very concerning because it's everywhere. It's not there. It's everywhere.
And I think people, if they're not paying attention, really need to understand it's not somewhere else. It is here, and wherever here is. But here in Foxborough, we do have a serious issue, and it's been in our own local paper, and it's something that we need to face. And whether it's our own family or our neighbors' families or just society as a whole, it does impact us either through costs, through just our condition and the way we live. So something to be aware of, and I'm glad to hear that.
We're trying to pay attention to that, and again, working with the Mass Highway, because not only do we have some issues in Foxborough, we've got them in Mansfield.
Got a few issues,
and we haven't gotten the attention. We were able to get a 495 off ramp done back a couple of years after I got in, but that's really been it. And we need to do some major improvements. We need to work together because a lot of this stuff all falls on our community's border. And whether it's the Hampton Inn on Foxfield Plaza that's coming in.
Exactly. That's a great new development news that's coming in. Always knock on wood, and I'm not going right now, but always knock on wood.
Knocking on a lot of wood with that.
But that's a great opportunity for that area to be developed, and it creates some good opportunity. But with that, we still have the Walnut Street Commercial Street intersection. We've got that whole off-ramp seems so congested and crowded, and with additional traffic, it's going to require some additional engineering, I would think.
Right, and I hope. And we've got Central Street and Commercial, further up. And then you look at the Walnut Street, could we make a pass through to Central Street and take some of that pressure off people?
And then we talk about the Mansfield, talking about it being a region and a regional approach. Mansfield is going forward their downtown redevelopment and the infrastructure that's going to be necessary to support all that. And some things need to get done.
Yeah,
so
and again, it's
good for you for paying attention.
Yeah,
to
and it's again bringing the not that they work independently, but they represent their own towns, but working with the town managers to say, hey, let's all sit down and have a conversation.
Take a regional approach. And it's work with water, and it'll work with roads, I'm sure.
Work with the rest, and also dispatch. Police and fire dispatch were working together to see if we can pull that off. So,
well, I know that when our public safety building was constructed, there was capacity made for such an approach. So who knows?
Who knows where it'll go?
I'm going to give you the last word in a second. Of course, I'm talking with Representative Jay Barrows, who's been our representative for the last 9+ years. And Jay, if people want to get a hold of you, they can email you at f.jbarrows@mahouse.gov. Or can they call you?
Yeah, 617-722-2488.
2488.
And certainly reach me in Mansfield. 339-6552 is my direct line there. Okay. So kind of feet in both places and try to make it happen.
One thing I've always found is you're super accessible. So I'm sure anybody wants to get a hold of you can. You get the last word, sir.
Well, it's still exciting. It's a great new beginning, as I said at the outset, for the opportunity to work with state government, get more eyes on our area. We've got a very vibrant area down here, and people have worked so hard over the years, long before I ever got there, but to build community, sense of community, to get around various issues and so forth, and to work together. And we've been in the ups and we've been in the downs, and I'm hoping we can continue to come out of the recession stronger, better, work with our schools to continue to promote and expand. So it's still an honor and a great privilege to represent Foxborough and all the great folks here. So
thank you so much, and on behalf of a lot of us, we really appreciate the work that you're doing, and we think it's a better place because of it. Speaking of a better place, you've got a better place to go because I'm out of time. Thank you very much, everybody. Hope you have a great day, Foxborough. Take care.